Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. Today, once again, we're doing something a little bit different with the Sweetwater Minute. We're in the recording space of Sweetwater Studio A, and we're going to take a look at a couple of different amplifiers today. To let you know what you'll be hearing on the video today, this is a Gibson Les Paul Standard 08. It's completely stock, right straight out of the demo room, and we've got it plugged straight into the two different amplifiers. We'll be using the same guitar to work with the two of them, so you can get an idea of what the sound's like. Let's start off with the first amp we have today, which is the Mesa Boogie Mark V. We just started getting these into stock, and they've just started kind of shipping in quantity, and this is an incredible amp. If you need one amp to do virtually everything for you, this is the amp that'll handle it for you. Let me give you a rundown on just a few of the features of this amp. This is the combo version. It's a 1x12, and it's actually set up with 3 different power levels. It has 4 6L6, or you can swap them out for EL34 tubes, and those tubes can be configured in different ways using switches on the front panel. It can operate at 10 watts Class A, 45 watts Class AB, or at 90 watts simulclass using all 4 of the tubes. So with this amp, you have 3 different power levels available to you. It's suitable for studio at 10 watts. You can wind it up without being too loud, or you can take it on stage and really crank it up when you need to put out some volume. The Mark V has 3 completely different voice channels. Each channel has its own separate EQ, its own separate reverb send, its own separate gain and volume settings. There's also a master volume and a solo volume for setting the overall volume of the amp, but each channel has its individual volume level for controlling the balance between them as you switch from one to the other. Channel 1 is a clean channel. It has 3 different voicings. There's clean, there's fat, and there's tweed. I've got it set on the basic clean setting right now. It's a good Fendery kind of clean tone. When you switch it to the fat setting, you can hear that the low end fattens up just a little bit, as you'd expect from the name. And then you can also switch down to the tweed setting, which gets a little bit louder. More like an older Fender tweed amp. Now when you want to change channels on this amp, you have 2 options. There's a foot switch that comes with it. It actually has 8 switches for controlling all the various functions. Or you can reach around to the back of the amp, and there's a switch back there that lets you choose among the 3 channels. I'm going to switch it over to the second channel now. Just like the first channel, channel 2 has 3 different voicings. There's edge, there's crunch, and there's Mark I. This is what the edge setting sounds like. So it's a little bit cleaner, a little bit brighter. It's a good sound that'll cut right through a thick mix. When you switch down to the crunch setting, it's a little bit fatter, a little bit chunkier. There's a little bit more gain. And by the way, I've only got the gain set at about 10 o'clock on this channel. There's a ton more gain available for when you want it. When you switch down to the third setting, basically what you're getting is the response of a vintage Mark I Mesa Boogie amplifier. The Mark I is going to have a fatter sound, a little bit more low end to it, a little bit more compressed. Here's what that sounds like. So you can hear what I'm talking about. The sound gets a little bit fatter, a little bit more compressed, a little bit more gain to that as well. There's an additional switch on this that I've actually got engaged when you're in the third setting on the channel that brings up the basically the same response as the thick switch on an original Mark I, and we've got that engaged right now. The third channel is where all the fun happens. This is the high gain channel of the amplifier. It's what you're going to use for your solos or when you really want to crank it up. There are 3 settings for this, 3 different voicings available for it as well. And those range from the Mark II C+, which is another vintage Mesa Boogie amplifier, to the Mark IV, which is the last generation of the Mark amplifiers, to Extreme. Let's hear what those sound like. So this is the Mark II C+, which is a great sounding amp. As far as the gain setting for this channel, I've got it set to about 2 o'clock on the dial, so it's not maxed out. There's still plenty of gain available. There's a ton of gain available on this channel for whatever kind of style you're working on. Let's switch over to the Mark IV setting and hear what that sounds like. The final setting on this channel is the Extreme setting. Now besides the 3 channels, each of which have 3 voices, each of which have their own EQ, the EQs that I've got set here are all pretty much just set straight up. They're all pretty much at 5, so you can tweak those. The tone controls are very interactive. There's a lot of power there for shaping the sound however you want. But as far as shaping the sound, there's another feature in this amp as well. It has a built-in 5-band EQ in it. And there's actually 2 different settings for the EQ. You can set it to the preset setting, which changes per channel. It's kind of been optimized by Mesa Boogie for each channel. Or you can set it so that it responds to the sliders on the front panel. But it goes beyond that even. You can turn the EQ off per channel, so you can have it on for channel 1 and off for channel 2 and channel 3, or any combination of those. And it goes further than that. There's actually a depth control for each channel. So you can dial in exactly how much of the EQ is affecting the tone as you're playing. A few other features that this amplifier has, and there's almost an endless list of features, but you can assign the effects loop to any of the channels that you want. There's a hard bypass for the effects loop, so when you switch it out, it's completely out of the circuit. I think I mentioned earlier that each channel has its own reverb level control. There's also a fan built in. You can turn the fan on and off. There's a slave out that has its own volume control for driving other amplifiers for more complex rigs. It's also got a tuner out that you can use to hook up a tuner and have it be active for you as well. If you're looking for an amplifier that can do virtually anything, from country to jazz to metal to rock to blues, any style that you're thinking of, the Mark V from Mesa Boogie will do it for you. The second amplifier we're going to look at today is the Orange Tiny Terror. We've actually just started carrying the Orange amplifiers here at Sweetwater. We're really excited about these amps because they sound great. Now this is a different kind of amp from the Mesa Boogie we looked at earlier. This amp is designed to be a rock and roll amp. You wind it up and it just sings, it just cranks, it just crunches. It does have some neat features though. This is a single channel amp. It has a gain control, it has a tone control, and it has a volume control, and that's it. What's really cool is you can switch it from 15 watts down to 7 watts. There are a pair of EL84 power tubes in this amplifier. By switching it down to 7 watts, you're actually cutting the volume back only by about 3 dB, but it's a noticeable difference, which makes it great for the recording studio. I should also mention that you've been hearing the Orange Tiny Terror through a Buddha 2x12 speaker cabinet. It has 2 of the Fat 12 speakers that Buddha makes. I really love these speakers. They're a nice, clean, crunchy, round-sounding speaker, and this cabinet's really fat-sounding. It really pumps out some low end and some volume. You can, of course, set this amp up for a nice clean sound as well. Let's see if we can dial that in. So you can get a nice clean sound out of the amplifier. Then when you wind the gain up, it gets really nasty. You'd be surprised, with 15 watts, the Tiny Terror is incredibly loud. It's plenty loud enough to keep up with a drummer on stage in a small club, or of course you can mic it up if you need more level than that. So I hope you've enjoyed this look at these 2 new amplifiers from 2 lines that we've just recently picked up here at Sweetwater, Mesa Boogie and Orange. We're really excited to have both of them on board. They're great sounding amplifiers. Either one is a wonderful addition to your arsenal. You know, if you want the ultimate in flexibility, the Mark V is the way to go. If you want an amp that's just going to scream and crunch it out, the Orange Tiny Terror is definitely one to look at. Thanks for joining me for this Sweetwater Minute. I'm Mitch Gallagher.